beneath the sodden, emerald shroud of Olympic National Park, where the air hangs heavy with the musk of wet earth and the ghosts of untouched centuries, something stirs. Not a deer threading silently through the ferns, nor a cougar's amber eyes glinting from the underbrush, but a presence older than the trees, heavier than the mountains, and far less forgiving. In the fall of 2017, Logan Mendel, a search and rescue officer hardened by 3 years of navigating Washington's wild heart, stumbled into a horror that clawed at the edges of reason and refused to let go. This is no fleeting ghost story to shiver away with dawn's light. It's a meticulously documented plunge into a nightmare, etched into the fractured testimonies of those who walked away and the silent evidence they couldn't bury. Welcome to Dead Man's Hollow, where the forest cradles its dead with possessive care and binds the living in chains of unseen terror. Crafted in the creeping, sinewy prose of John Langan, this tale unfurls with a dread that seeps into your bones. Lush with the damp rot of the Pacific Northwest, layered with the ambiguity of a wilderness that watches, and steeped in the kind of horror that festers long after the words fade. It's a story for the sleepless, for those who savor true terror whispered in the dark or spun as a sleep story that turns rest into a battlefield of shadows. But before you step into this abyss, pause and consider. Are you prepared to gaze into a cave that swallowed more than it spat out? Can you withstand the guttural rumble of something vast shifting beneath the earth, its breath a promise that it still listens? The forest is waiting, and it's hungrier than you know. The call to Dead Man's Hollow. Logan Mendel was a man built for the quiet, a Navy veteran who'd swapped the endless gray of the sea for the endless green of Olympic National Park. He carried the weight of his past in the lines of his face. Sharp jaw, tired hazel eyes, a mouth that rarely smiled. 3 years as a search and rescue officer had honed him into something steady, methodical, a figure who could read the land like a map and the people who wandered it like open books. He loved the trails, the way the Douglas firs loomed like sentinels, their branches dripping with moss that swayed in the perpetual drizzle, the way the Hoh River whispered secrets as it carved through the valley. The job was his anchor, a way to outrun the memories of shouting orders over crashing waves without ever glancing back. On that damp morning in October 2017, just past 10 a.m., the ranger station's radio crackled to life with a call that would unmoor him. 2 hikers, Mark Hensley, 32, and Rachel Teague, 29, hadn't returned from a weekend trek. Their friend, a jittery programmer named David, had called it in, his voice tight with panic. Their car, a rust-eaten sedan with a cracked windshield, sat abandoned at the Hoh River trailhead, keys still in the ignition, a half-empty water bottle rolling on the passenger seat. The trail wasn't treacherous by park standards. It wound through dense forest, its floor a carpet of ferns and fallen needles, its canopy a lattice that turned the sky into a rumor. Experienced hikers like Mark and Rachel, avid outdoors folk with gear receipts to prove it, should have navigated it fine. Logan figured a twisted ankle or a misturn. Routine. He slung his pack over his shoulder, radio, first aid kit, a hunting knife with a worn leather grip, and prepared to head out. And Kessler, his supervisor, intercepted him at the door. 52, wiry, with gray streaks threading her braid. She'd been with the Park Service for 2 decades and carried its history in her clipped tone. She thrust a laminated map into his hands, her finger stabbing at a red circle labeled Dead Man's Hollow. The name wasn't on tourist brochures. It lingered in the oral lore of rangers and locals. A hollow where loggers met grisly ends in the 1920s, pinned under collapsing timber, their blood seeping into the soil. People get weird out there, and said, her gaze locking onto his. Disoriented, spooked. Don't go alone if you can help it. Logan raised an eyebrow but didn't argue. She paired him with Alex Crane, a rookie fresh from training. 22, lanky, with a mop of brown curls and a grin that hadn't yet been dulled by the job. Good experience for the kid, and muttered, and Logan nodded, resigned. They left at 11 a.m., the sky a slab of pewter overhead, the drizzle a soft hiss against their Gore-Tex jackets. Alex filled the silence with chatter, marveling at the mushrooms blooming like pale stars along the trail, speculating about the hiker's route. Logan let it wash over him, his focus on the ground. A snapped twig, a scuff in the mud, anything to trace Mark and Rachel's path. 3 miles in, the forest thickened, the air growing cooler, heavier, as if the trees were exhaling secrets. That's when they found it. A shredded tarp snagged on a low cedar branch, its dark green nylon frayed into ribbons, streaked with crimson smears that glistened wetly in the muted light. Alex plucked it free, holding it up with a frown. "Blood?" he asked, his nose wrinkling as he leaned too close. Logan squinted, noting the tacky texture, the way it clung to the fabric. "Could be sap, could be anything," he said, though his gut twisted. It looked too fresh, too deliberate. He bagged it, and they pressed on, the incline steepening, the underbrush clawing at their legs. By 2 p.m., a stench punched through the damp air. Rotting meat and something sharper, metallic, like blood left to congeal. Alex gagged, pressing his sleeve to his face, while Logan tracked it up a rocky slope, their boots slipping on moss-slick stones. At the crest, the sight stopped them cold. Mark Hensley, or what was left of him, lay sprawled face down in the dirt, his flannel shirt and jeans shredded into tatters. His arms bent backward at unnatural angles, bones jutting through skin, and his back bore deep, ragged gashes. 5 parallel slashes that carved through muscle to expose glints of spine. His left leg ended in a stump below the knee, the flesh torn away in chunks, the wound jagged and wet. Flies buzzed lazily over the carnage, their drone a sickening hum. Alex stumbled back, swearing under his breath, his face paling to match the gray sky. Logan crouched, forcing his breathing steady as he studied the scene. He radioed N, his voice flat despite the adrenaline spiking his pulse. "Found one. Male, deceased. Bad shape. Looks like an attack." Anne's response crackled back, clipped and urgent. "Document it. Stay put. We're coming." Logan pulled out his phone, snapping photos. Mark's twisted limbs, the gashes, the stump, while Alex paced, muttering about bears. But Logan wasn't convinced. He'd seen bear maulings, sloppy, opportunistic, driven by hunger. This was different. The wounds screamed intent, the body splayed like a marker. Claw marks raked the dirt nearby, too wide, too deep, their spacing erratic, defying any predator he knew. Overhead, broken branches hung 9 feet up, snapped clean, their jagged ends fresh with sap. Something big had passed through, and recently. The forest went still, the drizzle the only sound, and Logan felt it. A prickling at his nape, the weight of something watching from the green. The night that breathed, and arrived an hour later with officers Jason Ward and Maria Lopez, their faces set in grim lines under the fading light. Jason, a broad-shouldered ex-cop with a buzz cut, carried a camera and evidence bags. Maria, petite and sharp-eyed, hauled a med kit she wouldn't need. They photographed Mark's remains, bagging scraps of cloth and soil samples, their movements mechanical as the day bled into dusk. The second hiker, Rachel, was still missing, and the light was failing fast. Shadows pooling under the trees, the mist thickening into a shroud. And called it. They'd camp overnight, resume at dawn. Logan's jaw tightened. He didn't like staying near whatever had done this, but orders were orders. They pitched 2 tents in a clearing 100 yards from the body, the ground soft with needles and damp earth. Logan and Alex shared a tent, its nylon walls a flimsy barrier against the night. Alex's nerves had frayed into a restless babble, speculating about bears, cougars, even wolves, his voice pitching higher with each theory. What could rip a guy apart like that? He pressed, his sleeping bag rustling as he fidgeted. Logan, lying on his back, stared at the tent's ceiling, the lantern casting jagged shadows. "Shut up and sleep," he growled, though he knew rest was a lost cause. His mind replayed the claw marks, the broken branches, the way the forest felt too quiet, too aware. Midnight tore him from a shallow doze. Heavy footsteps thudded outside, slow, deliberate, circling the tent with a weight that pressed the earth. Not wind rattling branches, not rain pattering leaves, but something alive, something close. Logan's breath caught, his hand nudging Alex awake. The rookie stirred, mumbling, "What?" until Logan's palm clamped over his mouth, his eyes wide with warning. Alex froze, trembling as the footsteps paused. Then came the breathing, deep, rasping, wet, like air dragged through a throat clogged with muck. It sniffed, a long, guttural inhale that seemed to taste the air, inches from the tent's thin fabric. Logan's fingers curled around his hunting knife, its blade cold against his palm, his mind racing. Could they reach Anne's tent without drawing it closer? Could they outrun it if it charged? The thing lingered, its presence a suffocating weight, then lumbered off, footsteps fading into the dark. Logan waited, ears straining, until silence reclaimed the night. He unzipped the tent with agonizing slowness, peering into the gloom. Alex stayed rooted, his breath shallow, as Logan crept to Anne's tent. She was awake, sitting cross-legged with a lantern glowing dimly, her shotgun across her lap. "Heard it too," she whispered, her face pale but resolute. They roused Jason and Maria, clustering in the open with the camp lights cranked high, their beams slicing through the mist. No one spoke much. They watched the trees, the shadows twisting into shapes that might have been tricks of the light, or might not. The forest held its breath, and Logan couldn't shake the certainty that whatever had circled them wasn't gone. It was biding its time. Dawn broke gray and reluctant, the drizzle a steady murmur. They broke camp fast, resuming the search with a tension that hummed between them. A quarter-mile out, Maria spotted her, Rachel Teague, slumped against a cedar, her throat a gaping red ruin, her arms scored with scratches from a desperate fight. Her eyes stared blankly, clouded over, her jacket shredded across her chest where claw marks had raked deep. Drag marks stretched from her body into the woods, wide, uneven troughs in the mud, before vanishing at a slab of bare rock. The stench of rot clung to the air, sour and pervasive, but the trail ended cold. And radioed the state officials. Her voice clipped, "Second body, female, same MO. We need backup." They were due by late afternoon, leaving hours to kill. Logan took Alex and Jason to scout further, driven by a restless need to understand. Half a mile on, hidden by a curtain of ferns, they found it. A cave mouth yawning in the hillside, unmarked on any map, its edges jagged with lichen-crusted stone. The air spilling from it reeked of decay, thick enough to coat their tongues. Bones littered the entrance, human skulls cracked open, deer femurs gnawed to splinters, some yellowed with age, others slick with fresh marrow. Inside, the walls bore deep scratches, wild, overlapping slashes that climbed 10 feet high, too chaotic for tools, too deliberate for claws. Nests of leaves, sticks, and shredded cloth huddled in the shadows. Crude, massive beds that could cradle something twice a man's size. At the cave's rear, a vertical shaft plunged into darkness, its edges worn smooth, too deep for their headlamps to touch bottom. A low rumble rose from below, a vibration that rattled Logan's teeth, followed by a wet, grinding shift, like stone dragged over stone, or something immense stirring awake. Fear, raw, primal, clamped Logan's chest. He barked at Alex and Jason to back off, his voice sharp with an edge he couldn't hide. They retreated, radioing and with shaking hands. "Found a cave. Something's in it. Get out here." The forest seemed to lean closer, its silence a vice around them, the ceiling of the abyss. State officials rolled in by 4 p.m. 6 men in tactical gear, armed with tranquilizer rifles and a cage of search dogs that whined and balked at the cave's edge. One hound broke free, bolting down the trail with its handler stumbling after it, cursing. The officials brushed off Logan's team, ordering them to stand watch while they entered. Time stretched thin, the drizzle hardening into a steady rain that drummed on their hoods. When the officials emerged an hour later, their faces were gray, their eyes hollow. They spoke in fragments. Bodies, too many, piled up down there. No photos, no samples, just a curt order to pack up. The operation shut down with military precision. Logan caught a supervisor muttering into a sat phone, Seal it. No leaks. By week's end, a crew arrived with concrete mixers and steel rebar, pouring a slab over the cave mouth thick enough to bury a house. The park closed for scheduled maintenance, a lie that fooled no one who'd been there. Logan's team was debriefed, separately, clinically, with a single directive. This didn't happen. Bear attack. End of story. Autopsy reports vanished into bureaucratic black holes. The hikers' families got vague apologies and closed caskets. But Logan couldn't unsee it. The bones, the nests, that sound from the pit. He started digging, quietly, obsessively, in the ranger station's archives after hours. He found scraps that gnawed at his sanity. The cave scratches matched no known animal or tool. Too wide, too deep. Their patterns hinting at ritualistic frenzy. The nests held relics. A rusted pocketknife from the 1950s, a child's shoe, a scrap of plaid shirt from decades past. Local Quinault and Ho legends spoke of the Tsokwi, a hulking, hybrid thing, part bear, part man, with claws like sickles and a hunger for trespassers. Loggers' journals from the 1920s described something big in Dead Man's Hollow, blamed for missing men and tools found broken miles from camp. A grainy 1970s photo showed a ranger beside a claw mark on a tree, captioned, "Not a bear, not anything we know." The pieces didn't fit neatly, but they painted a picture of something ancient, territorial, and very much alive. Logan transferred out 6 months later, landing a desk job in Idaho where the trails were flatter and the shadows less alive. When pressed about leaving search and rescue, he shrugs, muttering about burnout, but his eyes betray him, darting to corners, lingering on windows. Dead Man's Hollow clings to him. Mark's twisted body, Rachel's lifeless stare, the cave's black maw, that rumble from below. The concrete holds for now, but forests don't forget. Someday, a hiker will stray too far. A crack will split the seal, and whatever waits will climb free. A tapestry of terror. Logan's nightmare isn't a lone thread. Across America's wild places, search and rescue officers have brushed against the inexplicable, their stories echoing his descent with chilling consistency. In 2012, Calvin Redford tracked a missing hiker in Gifford-Pinchot National Forest, Washington, only to flee a skeletal creature, gray-skinned, its face a grotesque meld of wolf and bat, eyes like wet coal. It moved on digitigrade legs, leaving claw marks that spiraled up trees. He quit the next week, his report dismissed as stress-induced hallucination. In 2006, Cal Everly patrolled New Hampshire's White Mountains when a lean, long-limbed thing, its back ridged with stone-like plates, stalked his team. Locals called it the Ridge Walker, a tale older than the trails. It took a deer mid-hunt, snapping its neck with a single twist, and vanished into fog. Caleb Norrington, in Wyoming's Bridger Teton in 2012, found 3 hikers arranged in a circle, their limbs bent into impossible shapes by a hyena-like beast with a maw of jagged teeth. Its claw marks formed glyphs in the dirt, undecipherable but deliberate. Nolan Farnworth, in Alaska's Tongass in 2013, lost 2 team members to a 7-foot horror with crocodile jaws and a hide like wet bark. They'd found its cave, bones stacked in pyramids, walls carved with crude humanoid shapes. It tore through them in seconds. His flare guns burst, the only reason he survived. Zachary Holt, in Canada's Jasper National Park in 2011, rescued a hiker babbling about a sinewy creature with glass-like teeth and a shriek that split the air. It shadowed them for miles, leaving footprints twice human size. Walter Hemmings, in Arkansas's Ouachita in 1998, encountered 2 shiverbacks, canine snout things with oily fur and spines that quivered like tuning forks. They dragged off a camper, their howls a chorus of grief and rage. Everett Hulse, in Oregon's Mount Hood in 1996, drove off a clay-faced predator with a flare. Its body humanoid but twisted, its arms ending in talons that gouged stone. Leonard McCree, in Montana's Absaroka Beartooth Wilderness in 2017, fought a bear-sized thing with an insect-like gait, its legs clicking as it hauled a hiker into the trees. Everett Lacey, in the Ozarks in 2016, lost his partner to a moss-furred monster that moved with surgical precision, severing tendons before retreating with the body. These accounts thread a tapestry of dread, creatures too diverse to be one species, too consistent to be random. Claw marks defy zoology, too wide, too deep, often paired with wounds too precise for instinct alone. Bodies are posed or piled with intent, warnings, trophies, or something ritualistic. Caves and clearings hide bones spanning decades, some gnawed, others arranged in patterns hinting at intelligence. Footprints, bipedal, clawed, massive, trail off into nowhere. Official reports cling to bears, cougars, or human error, but the evidence whispers otherwise. Nests woven with purpose, carvings etched with meaning, a persistence that spans generations. The unseen wilderness. What haunts these wilds? Cryptozoologists murmur of relic species, megafauna or hominids, survivors of epochs we thought extinct, thriving in isolation. Biologists counter with feral mutations, bears or big cats warped by inbreeding or disease into something unrecognizable. Indigenous tales paint darker pictures. The tsokwi, the wendigo, the skookum, guardians or predators twisted by time and bloodlust, exacting tolls on those who trespass. A 1978 Polaroid shows a claw mark on a cedar, captioned, "Respect the forest, or it will take its due." A 1950s snapshot captures hunters with an unknown species, 8 feet tall, ridged spine, head too small for its frame, before it vanished from record. A 1980s ranger log notes a cave in Olympic sealed after unexplained losses, its location scrubbed. The truth slips through our grasp, buried in concrete tombs and silenced voices. The wilderness stretches vast and deep, its shadows a canvas for things we refuse to name. Logan Mendel's story, like those before him, isn't an ending, it's a fracture in the facade. The concrete may hold, the legends may sleep, but the things that breathe beneath the earth endure. So, reader, as you sit with this tale in the dark, ask yourself, would you tread Dead Man's Hollow, knowing what might hear your steps? Could you close your eyes with that rumble echoing in your skull? The forest waits, patient and ravenous, and it knows your scent.